professional diver ignored the warning signs and secretly led two novices into an underwater cave. On the way back, the group became divided at a junction. The leader believed the lower passage was the exit, but the two beginners were convinced that the guideline wouldn't be wrong. As a result, they split up. In the end, this decision led them to completely different fates. This is the Emerald Sink Cave diving tragedy we're going to talk about today. Located in Wakulla County, Florida, USA, Emerald Sink is one of the main entrances to the region's vast underwater cave system. Beneath the sinkhole's opening, the passages are intricate and interconnected, stretching for thousands of meters. In some areas, the depth exceeds 45 meters, making it dangerous even for professional divers to venture in casually. On December 15, 1988, three divers arranged to meet at Emerald Sink. The leader, Bill, claimed to be an experienced veteran who had completed dozens of cave dives. However, his two companions, Charles and Kevin, were newly certified divers, filled with curiosity and fascination for mysterious underwater caves. Their plan for this trip was simply to have a routine diving experience at Emerald Sink. Before entering the water, the three carefully checked their equipment. The initial descent went smoothly, and Bill led them along a guideline down to the bottom of the shallow area. The water there was crystal clear, with sunlight casting shimmering patterns beneath the surface. The novel experience excited Charles and Kevin immensely. After swimming around the area for a while, Bill unexpectedly noticed a pitch-black cave hidden in a nearby rock wall, marked with a warning sign. From the outside, the cave appeared completely dark. Bill shone his headlamp inside and found that it seemed bottomless. At that moment, Charles and Kevin swam up behind him. Before the dive, they had heard that beneath the sinkhole lay a true gateway leading deep into the cave system, a place strictly off-limits to beginners. Though it had been mentioned casually, Bill now stared at the dark entrance, seemingly deep in thought. He turned back and gestured for Charles and Kevin to wait where they were, then entered the cave alone. Not long after, Bill emerged again and swam back to them, signaling that the cave inside was calm. He asked if they wanted to go in and take a look. Charles and Kevin exchanged glances, their eyes clearly showing hesitation and fear. Perhaps sensing their concern, Bill reassured them that they would only stay near the entrance, briefly experience real cave diving, and then return the way they came. Trusting Bill's claimed experience as a seasoned cave diver, and noting that their air supply was still sufficient, Charles and Kevin ultimately agreed to his proposal, driven by curiosity. Ignoring the warning signs, the three of them ventured into the pitch-black cave. Bill advanced along a relatively wide main passage, steadily letting out the guideline from his hands. Every so often, he would look back to make sure Charles and Kevin were keeping up. Driven by the primal urge to explore the unknown, Bill continued to descend, and the promise of just staying near the entrance was quickly forgotten in the darkness. Meanwhile, Charles and Kevin began to feel uneasy. Lacking cave diving experience and too afraid to return on their own, they could only follow closely behind Bill. The cave passages alternated between spacious and narrow sections, and it wasn't until their tanks were more than halfway depleted that Bill finally stopped. At this point, the three were about 244 meters from the entrance, with the water depth exceeding 45 meters, far beyond the maximum depth allowed by their cave diving certifications. The oppressive environment made Charles and Kevin breathe increasingly rapidly, their eyes betraying obvious panic. Bill signaled to them not to worry and said, "We'll turn back immediately and retrace our path." Under normal circumstances, the three would have been able to safely return to the sinkhole entrance simply by following the guideline they had used on the way in. But as they reached a junction and were about to ascend, the leader, Bill, suddenly stopped. Using his light to signal repeatedly, he indicated that this was not the passage back to the entrance. They had gone the wrong way. Charles and Kevin were bewildered as they looked at the guideline below, clearly marked as leading to the exit. Yet they knew Bill had extensive cave diving experience. Out of trust in him, they followed him back to the junction. After a moment of observation, Bill pointed toward a pitch-black, seemingly bottomless cave nearby, signaling that this was the true exit. Charles and Kevin, however, responded with frantic hand signals, insisting that the passage with the clearly marked guideline was the real exit. The disagreement escalated, with time slipping by as the three lingered over 40 meters underwater. Their remaining air was running low. Seeing Charles and Kevin still hesitating, Bill didn't wait for their response and swam toward the dark passage without a guideline. Charles and Kevin froze. At that moment, they faced only two choices: either trust their experienced, but possibly compromised leader and venture into the unknown darkness, or rely on their own diving knowledge and follow the guideline marked with the exit, fighting for their own survival. With air critically low, taking the wrong path would leave them no chance of returning, and the only outcome would be the most desperate. Driven by the instinct to survive, Charles and Kevin exchanged a glance and decided to follow the guideline with the exit marking. With their tank needles nearly at zero, they had to skip the decompression stops and accelerate their ascent, risking decompression sickness. Their bodies soon ached, a clear sign that they had developed decompression sickness. Fortunately, Charles and Kevin successfully reached the cave entrance. There was no relief in their survival, only a cold, lingering fear. They immediately breathed pure oxygen from tanks they had prepared at the entrance to help expel excess nitrogen from their bodies. During this time, they saw no sign of their leader, Bill, at the entrance. Realizing he might be in trouble, they ignored their own physical pain and called for rescue immediately.